on board with you, right? So, and as much as when they come in and, you know, if they're coming in for solutions focused hypnotherapy and you're doing your initial consultation, you want to tell them about polar bears and all this kind of stuff, that's fab, that's brilliant. But they've got the attention span of a fish, right? So after about, what, 10 minutes, they'll be going, can't bother with this. Even though they might even think it's quite interesting, they don't have the attention span to sit and listen for all that kind of stuff. So make sure you put questions in. And the big thing is all about know, like, and trust, right? Regardless if you're a parent and you're watching this, regardless of who you are, you have to know and this is how they do marketing at the same time. It's really weird. I was on this marketing thing and they were like, well, marketing is all about know, like, and trust. I was like, no, it's not. It used to be something else, but anyway, it's all about they get to know you, they like you, and they trust you. If you get these three things, you've kind of sussed it from day one, right? And you need to get on their wavelength. Now, as a teacher when I was teaching, I taught secondary school, and if you weren't able to get on their wavelength, it doesn't matter what you did, they weren't interested. So you need to get on their wavelength. So simple questions to ask them, right? What do you like doing outside school, right? Now, I had a client, right? A client in today, right? Asking what you do like to do outside school is pointless at this moment in time because they haven't been at school. But it's like, all right, what kind of things have you been doing during lockdown? Yep. What things have you been doing now lockdown's over? Now, the thing is, nobody has been in this situation before, right? We have no idea, right? Nobody's been in a pandemic, right? So we can't actually say, right, well, you know, well, back in my day and all that kind of stuff, because nobody has any experience of it. So we're actually all in the same boat. We're all on the same level. So it's getting them to kind of come onto your kind of way of thinking. You get on their wavelength and they kind of can get on yours. So you're asking them questions like, what's your favourite subject? Do you like sports, computer games, Netflix, movies? Right? And really kind of get into what makes them tick. Because when you've got that, you're halfway there, right? Of getting them right on your kind of wavelength. And this is what a lot of therapists forget, and they miss out. They miss out on actually getting to the kind of core of the person. You're not interested, to be honest, you've got to be honest, when somebody comes, like, you don't really need to know what their massive issue is, but you need to know the person. You need to know what makes them tick. You need to know, you know, what kind of movies do they watch, right? Because it tells you a lot about a person. Yeah. If they're playing computer games, what kind of computer games do they play? Now, I can't play computer games for love nor money, but I could tell you a load about them, and what ones are good and what ones are rubbish, and you know what one people play. Right? It's just all about simple research, like sport. As everybody will know, me and sport and PE and it's not happening. Right? But I can take clients round, right, about 5-6 golf courses in Wiltshire in my head, right? Never done it, I've never been there, right? But I know the yardage, I know where the bits, you know, the lakes are, where all the bunkers are, all this kind of stuff. Because over the years, I've had so many young people that have come in that have played golf. And you just get to know it. Horses are the same. Yep. So it's getting into their mindset. It's getting to know what makes them tick. So every time they come back in, you can say to them, "Oh, did you see? I don't know. Did you see the football? Did you see the golf? Did you see the cycling? You know." And to be honest, it can take you 5 minutes to gen up on what's happened that week before on all these little things. But to that young person, makes a huge amount of difference. Right. So, and now it's even more important to be on their wavelength, because everything is like that big huge transition, and the more you get to know about them and the more you kind of get in their wavelength, the easier it will be for you to kind of get them, you know, in your chair, on your couch, or even just talking to them, and build up that simple. I mean, it's not, you're not wanting a big, massive relationship. It's a very simple relationship, because solution focused is actually to make it, you know, you want it to be quick, you want it to be effective, and you want them to do, like, we're going to, you know, help you sort yourself out, and then you can go. You don't want them to be there in 12 months' time and all that kind of stuff. We're not having that. Yeah. So you want to write all this stuff down. Yeah. And then you can use it in your explanation when you talk about how your mind works. So, you know, when you're doing the initial, as I said, using the questions in your initial consultation and asking them simple questions about how your mind works, you know, when you're doing all your, yeah, yeah, this is your mind, this is your subconscious, whatever way you do it, and we're all different, right? So you can actually put little snippets in, like if you're talking about polar bears, you might not make it a polar bear, make it something else. Like you can make it something of a computer game. You know, if you saw that scary creature out of, I don't know, whatever it is, or Game of Thrones or whatever, if they were round the corner and they came to get you, what would you do? You know, so you're putting yourself on their wavelength, and they're only tiny little tweaks, but they make a huge difference to somebody, because that person sitting across from you, right, who he thinks that all people over the age of 35 are just old biddies that do nothing, all of a sudden they think, actually, she maybe does know something. Yep. So it gets them on your wavelength. And to me, it's made a massive amount of difference, huge amount of difference. So what have I put? So these are the things come up. Now, I know we've got people on here that are not hypnotherapists as such, but the miracle question, you use it in anything. Like, you don't necessarily have to just use it, right, in a therapeutic setting. You can use it anywhere. So you can use it even when you're talking to your children, I don't know, to your nephews, to your cousins, whatever. Right? It's a question that was created for people to think and to get their minds thinking and overthinking and thinking and thinking, but thinking in a good way. So this is a lovely miracle question that everybody's seen, or everybody, if you haven't seen it, you have now. Right? So you go to sleep, yeah, and a miracle happens. Ah! Right? And then when you wake up, right, everything's different. The problem that you brought has been solved. Now, you can tweak it in whatever way you want, okay? Because a lot of young people are very kind of guarded when they want to, when you sense them. So, you know, how can I help you? What's your issue? They don't really want to tell you, right? And I always say to them, you don't have to tell me anything. I'm really not that fussed, right? You don't want to tell me, you don't tell me. Right, but you can get some amazing responses because they're young people, right? I've had some brilliant ones, right? And it could be like they've come and said, I'm really anxious, you know. At the minute, the big anxiety is, I don't want to go back to school. That's it. I'm not going back, right? So when you say to them, okay, you know, why don't you want to go, be a big thing, why don't you want to go back to school? Oh, no, you just never know what's going on, right? No, neither do I, to be honest. Right? Oh, I don't know, I might have to wear a mask, I've got to sit in my classroom all day, all these things come out. So when you sense them, right, the problem that you brought, in a sense, has been solved. You're thinking, so their anxiety, in a sense, of going back to school is gone, right? Okay, how will you know what will be different? Right? So they'll be like, well, I won't be going to school then, usually. That's going to be one that, well, no, because you're going to go to school, but you'll be going to school maybe calmer. Yeah. So what will you get? Oh, and you could tell they've got the most amazing imagination. Yeah. So they come up with all these brilliant things. Oh, well, you know, my girlfriend or one or whatever. Oh, okay. You think, where's that come from? So they'll come up with it. Sometimes they want to shock you. Sometimes they come up with these amazing questions, amazing answers, right? But it's actually you just to keep on going. And then the last thing you want to do, right, is to say, all right, what else? What else? What else? Because what you're doing is you're blocking them, right? So in training, I know they say, well, you just go, what else? What else? What else? This is where you bring in the questions. You kind of questioning. You keep on questioning. Yep. And you have to use a bit of imagination. So I've made it quite simple. So I said, well, maybe when I say, well, I'll feel like getting up, face the day, right? And the big thing is, instead of you want to put the blank over my head, right? I'll get up. So this is where you have to have the extra questions, right? So instead of saying, well, what else? But this is where you be specific. Now, if you're dealing with somebody that's in your own house and they're anxious, right, you can do the same kind of exercise. All right, then, what are you going to do tomorrow that you didn't do today? How are you going to know that you're maybe feeling a bit better? What do you think you can do? Right, or what you will do, right? Now, there's two things that come into this, and this is the things that over the kind of years. One is the language that you use, right? Don't say, what would you do, right? Because that's actually giving them in the future, what would you do, right? Okay, and you don't say, what can you do? Because when you say what can, you're giving them, well, I can do it. It's a choice thing, isn't it? I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Right? But it's whether or not I choose to, because that's how our minds work. But when you say to them, what will you do? Then they've got the answer that they come at is going to be different. What will I do? Right? Because you're not saying to them, what can you do? You're saying, what will I do? It's a physical thing, isn't it? You're actually saying to them, what will you do? Yep. So say, well, I'll have breakfast. Yep. Right. What will you have? What's your favourite breakfast? Yep. Right. And then it's like, so after breakfast, what will you do, right, that you didn't do this morning? You see, so in a sense, it's the words that you use get the mind a bit more active, so you can get the little bits, and then they're more receptive to answering, right? And there's loads of times when people have said, and we've, like having the silence is lovely. Like, oh, let them think. Like, let them think. Just say, what else? And let them come up with something. What else? But these are like young people, right? Who are like, right? And their minds will go off at a tangent very quickly, right? It's like if you've ever been in a classroom with, I don't know, 35 15-year-olds, right? And you're trying to keep them on task. The last thing you want to do is, okay, then we're going to have a minute silence. They look at you and go, what? Right, so silence is fine, but only tiny little space of it, tiny little bits. So when you send them, okay, then what will you have? And then you give them. So the more specific and the more you kind of help them get through the questions, the better it is. Much better, it's much easier. Now, I've only learned this because when I was doing my training, the big thing is David all used to say, okay, then what will you do that's different? How and then they'd say something and you go, what else? Like, what else? And then what else? And then you might put an extra question. Now it's what else? It's like, that is hard. That is really hard work, massively hard work on anybody. And I'm all for an easy life. So for me, it's like the more lovely solution questions you can put in there, the easier it is for the young person to kind of get on with it. And especially now when you're trying to get them to face the things that they're going to have to face, like going back to school. Yep. So tomorrow, okay, we're going to go to school, right? Right, you'll go to school, right? What's going to be different tomorrow morning when you get up? What will you do that's going to be different? Yep. How will you feel, right? Now, the feeling word is another one, right? That sometimes you kind of think, maybe I shouldn't. So I've put here, right, it's about playing golf, because I thought I'd put play golf in, right? Use the word will and not would, because everything you have to put in the present tense. So they might say, right, well, tomorrow after school, I'm going to play golf. I'll play golf. All right, who you play golf for? Yep. Well, I don't know. When was the last time you played golf? And then you can kind of like, it's kind of like taking a breather, because we're all the same. You could do so much and go, Jesus. So then take it a bit and go, so who's your favourite golfer then? How do you think, why is he so good? Right? And then you could kind of like expand, how do you reckon he sort of got so good at it? And these are all really simple questions, right, that you can use anytime at all. And there's been loads of young people that have come in, right, and we've chatted about stuff, just talk, and then you think, oh, right, so why do you reckon, you know, and I've always, why do you reckon they're so good? Oh, well, he's obviously, because he's, you know, he gets up every morning, he trains, and he's got this, he's got discipline, he's got this, he's got that. So then you can expand and say, have you got that then? Or when was the last time you had that? When was the last time you did that? And at the minute they're going, well, the last time I like went to the gym was before lockdown. Yep. But when you went to the gym, yep, did you know, was it good? Did it make you feel good? What was good about it? What do you reckon's going to be different about going to the gym at the minute? And a lot of them are going, well, you can't, I don't know, I haven't been to the gym, but obviously there's not as many people, you can't do as much stuff and all that kind of stuff. So it's asking them, so how will you get around this, that you can come at the gym and feel as good as what you did before lockdown? You see, there's big differences. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep, cool. Right, so then there's some simple questions, right? You can get specific. Yep. Now I know when it comes to some of the young people, like when you send them, how exactly did you do that? Right? What we kind of go through it, right? And some of them can be really, well, I did this and I did this, fab, right? And then the other ones, what exactly did you do differently that made it go better? So, you know, if you're talking about people maybe going to school, playing sport, or even studying, if if they've changed their study techniques, what did you do differently that made it better? That actually made it work better for you? And they go, oh, don't know, what did I do? And then say, you know, think about it. So you dissect it. And everything that you do has to focus on them. Like every solitary question is focusing on getting, I always say it's like having all these little light bulbs, little switches in your head, and every one you're trying to flick a switch in their head. So what they're doing is getting their mind to work for them. Yep, just on the questions that you ask. So then, you know, even things like paying them compliments. Yep. Now, the things you don't do, right, in a sense, is you don't say, but if you're looking at people, and I got people that have got eating disorder and stuff, the last thing you say to them, oh, you're looking good, right? Because it's like, oh, does that mean I'm looking fat? Does that mean I look thin? No. You kind of pay them compliments saying, oh, nice jumper, right? Now, if people have been in my room, they'll know, oh, I like your jumper. That's the fab one for me, because it's the easiest thing in the world, right? I like your jumper. Or, oh, nice bag, or something that they can detach themselves from, but actually they're quite happy to take the compliment, right? Keep the compliments so they're not sort of really specific to any bodily thing, any of their kind of body stuff, right? Young people, it's the worst thing you can do. So unless you get to know them really well, and then you can start to do a bit at the beginning, it's simple stuff. Bags, trainers, you know, or, you know, if they've been driving, just drive here, or what car you got, whatever. Yep. Or if they're talking about stuff and you go, how'd you do that? Oh, that sounds good. How did you put that together? You know, that's really good. That's brilliant. Well, that's amazing. And it's all these kind of things. And so all the things that I've put in here, right, there's a question, and it's usually after I've done all the kind of specifics, right? You've asked them questions, you've got their little head to work like this, loads and loads of stuff that go on, right? But I always say the whole session is focusing on you. The whole question is focusing on you. Like the whole session is focused on you. It's not focused on anybody else. It's focusing on you. Yeah. Right. So, because we're focusing, what's stopping you from having these positive thoughts, these positive emotions and positive behaviours? Yep. And then because you've gone through loads and loads of different bits and bobs, right, and you've created a know, like, and trust, right, in a very, very short space of time, right, then you can say to them, what would you like to see instead? What would you like to see, or what would you like to do differently? Right. And because you've asked them about their sports, you've asked them about the stuff they do, maybe their favourite subject, all these kind of stuff, you've actually got them kind of where you want them. So you could say to them, what would you like to see? What would you like to see instead? Or, what would you like to, how would you like to behave? Right. Now you can do this as a future tense and not say, how will you behave? Right. But you say, how would you like to? Right. Because we've kind of gone through a bit of a process. And they can have loads of stuff. Right. They say, well, actually, I want to go back to school. Right. I want to see my mates. And I want to, just feel that things will be fine or things will be okay. Now, because nobody knows how these things are going to happen, nobody knows how it's going to work, right? You can't say, oh, it'll be fine, and that word fine should be taken out of the dictionary sometimes, but you can't say, oh, it'll be okay, because you don't really know that. So you have to say to them, how would you like this to work? How will you want this? How do you want your day to be? What's the best things that will work for you? So it could be things like, I'm not saying that might not all be going to school, but some of them even going to university. It's like, well, I'd just like to be able to know that, if I'm going to school, if I want to leave the classroom, I can leave the classroom. If I'm feeling quite anxious, I've got like a get out card and I can leave my get out card, or I can go and call my mum if I get really stressed. So it's putting all these things in place for them, and they're all solutions, they're all solutions, but they're the ones that have come up with the solutions, not me, right? I've got them to these solutions by actually doing the other bits at the beginning. Yep. So then I always ask them, if there's one person you'd like to see the difference in you, who will it be? Yep, just one person. Now, sometimes they'll say, oh, my mum. Yep. A lot of them don't even say their parents, might say my teacher or my girlfriend. One little girl said my next door neighbour. Yep, and you think, okay, but it's whoever is important to them. Yep, and we can't preempt it, because to be honest, a lot of the time you think they're going to say their mum and dad. They don't. That's their assumption, and all the way through this, your assumptions have to go out the window, because how their mind works is totally different to how our minds work. So I always ask them, if there's one person you'd like to see the difference, who will it be? Because it's kind of like saying, you're not saying, the reason I do it is because the whole thing is focused on them, but we're saying, you're going to make that difference. But because somebody else is going to see the difference, you then get that recognition that we all crave for, that, good on you, mate, you're looking good. Oh, wow, look at that. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that fab? Whether it's your nan, your granddad, and you go, oh, look at my grandson, all that kind of stuff. That's what the kind of stuff they want, right? And that's all the whole thing that humans crave. We crave that kind of, nice one, mate. Yep. So to me, it makes a big difference to them that they're thinking about who else they'd want to see the difference in. Let me have a look. Right. I'll do one more thing. I know we've only got half an hour, And I know it's only half an hour. I could talk for England, but I won't, I promise. Right? So, the other thing that's in a bit, the solution focused thing, whether you're looking at it from a parent point of view or whether you're looking at it from a therapist point of view, is scaling, right? I use it loads of different ways, loads and loads of different ways, right? And it's depending on what we've spoken about, depending on who it is. The way I do scaling at the beginning of a session is totally different from how you're taught to do scaling, but I just created it because it worked for me, and it's always worked for me. But when you're looking at somebody and they say, all right, then, if you're saying, oh, how happy are you feeling? Right, simple, and they say, I'm a 5, right? And you can say to them, oh, what small thing will you do, right? And not could you do or would you do, will you do to get from a 5 to 6? And they're like, what will I do to get from a 5 to 6? Yep, and then it's getting the little mind ticking. And you can even say to them, so why are you not a 6? What's the difference between a 5 and a 6? Yeah. And I also get, when I've when parents say to me, what's the thing I can do? Scale them. Like, ask them, where are you? Where are you today? Right? Are you at a 5 or are you at a 6? Why are you not a 6? Right? Is there something that we will do to get you to a 6? Yeah. So you can use that regardless. So what I'll put at the end is, young people, give yourself, it always takes a couple of sessions, because you know what they're like. They kind of close up, and a lot of them have been to counselling before, they've been seeing other therapists, they've been through CAMS, they've been through it all. Yep. And they're like, oh, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, can't be bothered with this. They have I've got an attitude. But if you get in there, kind of hit the ground running, after a couple of sessions, they can open up with loads of stuff. Yeah. But kind of keep feelings out of it. Don't keep on saying, how are you feeling? Don't do that. That's just a big forget it. Right. But they will start to talk about it. Right. Regardless, it's not girls talk about more than boys, or whoever they want to call themselves, whatever they are. There's no kind of, they do it more than others, they don't. Yep. But you'll elicit loads of the emotions through the questioning as you do them anyway. Right. But the big thing is, don't keep on saying, how does this make you feel? Because they want to put your eyes out with a sharp stick. Right. And they do, trust me. Right, I think. Yeah, so that was all I did. I'm not quite sure. Hopefully, that's given you... Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing because I feel a bit numpty.